see what he can do in the midst of unbelievers, on the leading edge with his word, his power, his grace, and his mercy. For God's sakes, we're Lutheran. This is what we know.
Wittenberg Project, like, comment, subscribe, support. So, something I noticed, just a little surge in general, that we don't really talk about much, is the apology. The apology of the, well, hold on, first off, a little background. You may be non-denominational, Pentecostal, Baptist, Methodist, all sorts. All this still applies to you because a lot of the stuff you hold to and the fundamental doctrines that we just all say, oh, that's just what it means to be Christian, are things that came up and were elaborated at this diet, at this conference. So don't think this isn't something that applies. This history is a part of your history too. Many people will say, I'm not Catholic for this. No, of course not. This and that, this, that. But they haven't looked into when this division started or the issues that were there and, you know, what developed, what transpired. The main things that transpired and happened. Like, if in your city, two sides don't get along and they come together to have a conversation, a meeting or something of that nature. A little history in this little, this little video. One thing, definitions, just for words that people might not know. It's called the Diet of Augsburg. It's like a conference, where people get together in a sense. So you can look at it as a conference. Another definition, apology. That just means give a defense. That doesn't mean, like I said, I'm sorry, or, oh, I didn't mean to offend. It doesn't mean that. It means defense. So words like that are used, have that type of context. Don't really like labels too much. They are necessary. Common label is Protestant, Catholics, of course. And one of the big things that started this whole thing was Martin Luther, 95 Theses, and things of that nature. A lot of times we focus on the Augsburg Confession, the chief confession of the evangelical Catholic, the Lutherans. In 1530, the emperor, he hadn't really been to Germany since the Diet of Worms, where Martin Luther was excommunicated for his ideas and things of that nature that majority of Protestants somewhat hold today. And it was a big deal. You had the emperor there. He was in Germany. You had the Lutheran princes. Yeah, we had princes, you dig. You know what I'm saying? All in the building. The call was to they wanted to know, where do the Lutherans stand? Where do the evangelical Catholics stand? What are their beliefs? One thing to note was, just for a historical reference point, during this time span, Martin Luther wasn't there. He wasn't there because he couldn't be guaranteed safe passage to the Diet. So Melanchthon was his document that was written, so he was the best person to present it and to stand there and explain and things of that nature. But Martin Luther wasn't allowed in the building, pretty much. He wasn't there. People's lives were really at stake in this thing, all for the faith. So as it transpired, all this led up to the apology of the Augsburg, a Christian document. I won't even say just an evangelical Catholic or Lutheran document, because that wasn't the goal of it. Those gangs weren't really established, so denominations weren't there. So it's really something that's written for the overall church structure, the church body as a whole. These are the errors that were found, and these are the errors that should be addressed. So the document was written by Philip Melanchthon with hopes of uniting the areas, and stopping a potential civil war and things of that nature. A quote that is attributed to Martin Luther is, he states that he could have drove Germany in a civil war, but he figured that wasn't the way to do it, to let the gospel take root and take effect, which is a big statement, especially considering times today and political unrest and the way Christians feel in various scenarios. Is a good way to look at things. A famous quote that people don't give context for is, after stating that it could have been a civil war, Luther said instead, "Me and Melanchthon sat in the garden and drunk beer and let the word do its work." Amazing quote that summarizes so much. After it was presented, something that people don't talk about is the Confutation. That's a document written by Roman Catholic apologists, theologians, to pretty much review and oppose or show agreement in regards to the Augsburg Confession that was presented at the Diet of Augsburg. People don't really talk about that much, you know. I searched online, looked around, didn't really see much, you know. We kind of ignored that. We just celebrate the Augsburg and the apology, but we don't talk about what led to the apology. And lo and behold, this Confutation article, the Confutation of the Augsburg Confession, was led by John Eck. Now, even on the Catholic sites, Roman Catholics document everything. Like, you can find creeds, you can find a whole bunch of helpful resources in Christendom and things that happen in the West on their sites, but you can't really find too much about this for various reasons. Wonder why, you know what I'm saying? Some places say that it just wasn't good. I mean, I don't think that. I think that they stood up and opposed and it just didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that this was a big deal. This diet was a big deal. And literally, it could have changed the tides. It could have changed the tides and shown that the evangelical Catholic stance was heretical, out of norm, and should be opposed, and kind of squashed the whole thing. But that's not what happened. So it was led by John Eck. Now, John Eck's a big deal. So sure, this wasn't the Pope per se, but John Eck was called on by the Pope in regards to excommunication of Martin Luther and things of that nature. So he wasn't no slouch. Like, he knew doctrine, he knew the stance of the church, and he was a great representative of that position. Now, people will say, well, that's not the official Roman Catholic response or this and that. Yeah, it's kind of semantics, because I guarantee you, if he would have pulled it off, then it would have been like, oh, this is certified. Yeah, get out of here, evangelical Catholics. You gotta do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. People be Monday morning quarterbacking, rewriting history in a sense. After the Confutation was reviewed, pretty much in the Confutation of the Augsburg Confession, out of all the articles, 13 of them were condemned, 9 were accepted without explanation, and 6 were accepted with clarification. And after it was, now the emperor, as I said, he was part of the Diet of Worms, where John Eck opposed Luther, and Luther ended up being excommunicated. If you're doing a scorecard, you could say John Eck, he won that one, you know. And that kind of shows, like I said, you can't really downplay the authors of the Confutation, because John Eck was a huge deal, and his work was good enough then to be opposed and to be a representation of the Catholic faith, Roman Catholic faith. So after the Confutation was viewed by the emperor and people, he sided with them, saying that the Lutherans need to basically accept the conclusions and return to the Catholic faith, or Roman Catholic faith. I do find it very interesting that he wouldn't give the reply to them. Some say because it was so sloppy and things of that nature. Like I said, I disagree with that. I disagree with that they just minimize it like that, you know. And they wanted a chance to write a response, and the emperor pretty much was saying that if I give you the response, you have to agree not to write a defense or a reply to it. No, we didn't agree to that. You know. But as they read it, they transcribed it. The Lutherans transcribed it, so we do have it. It's kind of hard to find, but we do have it. And you can see the points that were made. Many things were agreed upon between the two. Many things were agreed upon. And you can find that when you read the apology, you'll notice the apology means defense, not like I'm sorry. You notice a few of the big topics, there is no pushback, there is no elaboration on that position. But there are areas where there were big disagreements. There are areas where there were huge disagreements. So this confutation that is kind of ignored in history, not referenced, not celebrated by anti-evangelical Catholics, is there, you know, which led Melanchthon, took a few years to write the apology, the defense of it. Now, this is a big deal because it's the chief article of confession, you know, like the apology, the Augsburg Confession initially, it was written with a chance of unity. It was written for the chance of uniting, which is a major point. It's a major point that stands to the testament and the heart of the document. You know, it wasn't to drive a wedge and split things further. It wasn't to cause more division. That wasn't the goal of it at all. People had slim hopes that it would unite, but that was the goal of it, you know. Now the apology. The apology was written, and it's a beautiful document that elaborates and explains and goes into detail about the matter at hand. One of the reasons why this is important, because this is a clear distinction and a clear situation where both sides get to present what they believe, what they hold, and what they say the issues are. The other side able to respond and say, this is how I feel about this. I agree, I disagree with that. And then you have the final one, the final one was the apology of Augsburg, where they say, you know, thanks for agreeing here. You disagree here, but here's where we stand still, you know. And there was no response by the Roman Catholics given after the apology of Augsburg. A more so response, people would say, would be the Council of Trent. A whole different venture and event, but that's when you kind of see the swords come back out, in a sense, in regards to what was written. I say this because a lot of times in Protestant, people have their complaints and things of that nature, but it's not done in this manner to where you can actually see them talk about the exact same issue. I would say together, but they really weren't together, but directly towards each other, where they can say something, clearly lay out how they stand, and banter about it, and you can get clear